Well, good evening, YouTube Van Halen fans. How's everybody doing tonight? It's been a little while since we've done a live show. Happy summer. Happy July. What is it today? Today's the, it's the 22nd already. Man, we got a good show for you tonight. I'm actually, I think you guys already know, it's not really much of a surprise, but I'm wearing my T-shirt tonight, which I dug out of the closet from a long time ago. But thank you everybody for jumping in today. I want to introduce, we're gonna have a great show tonight, but I want to introduce a gentleman who I've been incredibly intrigued by for many, many years. And we became Facebook friends, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, something like that. And chatted a little bit here and there. He'd like some of my pictures. I'd like some of his. And we started chatting, I don't know, a year or so back, maybe a little bit less. And he agreed to come on the show. And I am incredibly honored to not only be friends with this guy, but to hear what he has to say. And I hope you guys really enjoy what we got tonight. It's been kind of a while, kind of trying to make this happen with everybody's schedules. But I would like to introduce the one, the only, Mr. George Felise.
Cheers, everybody. How the sunburn you got there, Robert?
Oh gosh, crazy. So I'm gonna. So it's funny. A quick story. We had a lot of beach time over the last couple of months and a half. But about 2.5 months ago, I started getting all these red dots all over my body, my arms, legs, chest, everything. Like, what the hell is going on? And I found out at 51 years old, I got this thing called psoriasis, which was an autoimmune response to having strep throat, which my doctor misdiagnosed. And so I've been going to this thing called phototherapy for the last month, and they're almost gone. Hopefully it never come back again. But yeah, it was the weirdest thing. So I have to wear these stupid goggles. So yeah, I got quite a I got quite a red sunburn, but you know,
you look damn good for 51.
Well, whatever.
I have underwear 51 years old. I'm probably wearing them right now.
Well, you look pretty good, George. You look pretty good, man. And
so what's new?
Thank you. Not too much. How you been?
I woke up breathing. It's all been downhill from there.
Yes, sir.
So, all right, let's get the show underway.
Well, yes, let's get it underway. George, thanks for jumping on. We already have, I don't know if you can see it in the right-hand side, we got the chat is just booming with questions. So let me just take 2 seconds and just say hi to a few folks that are watching. Chad, how you doing, Chad? Kurt, Johnny Bean, Hugh Robin, how is everybody doing? Smallmouth Guy, Patrick Coachell, Andrew Russell. I'm just blazing through this because I know George wants to get rolling. Eddie Mann, oh gosh, it's George, everybody's here to see you, bro. I'll tell you, this is great. I'd like to take one quick second before we jump in and just say the news on, and George, I'm going to give you a few minutes to chat about this, but the one and the only Ozzy Osbourne, priest, it is. I'm so glad he had a chance to do the farewell show, and you know, last song he sang was "Mama, I'm Coming Home," and I just want to say, you know, shout out and rest in peace to Ozzy. And George, go ahead. Anything you want to say on Mr. Osbourne?
I've been a Black Sabbath fan since early '70s, and the first album I bought with my own actual real money was Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath, back in '73. And the funny story is, I asked my parents if I could buy the record. We were out at Sears somewhere, and she said, "I don't want you listening to that crap. It's devil music." So I said, "Oh, come on, Mom. You know I want this album." So she finally gave in and let me buy it. And I got home, and my guinea pig was dead. So I ran out of the room, and I said, "Mom, my guinea pig is dead." And she said, "See, I told you it was devil music." It's a sad, sad day. And I mean, I've seen Ozzy play so many times. I saw him at least 4 or 5 times with Randy. I saw Van Halen open for Sabbath.
Ah, that's awesome.
You know, it's heartbreaking, but you know, you can't live forever. And just want to say, Ozzy gave me the greatest music of my childhood and my youth, and I appreciate him, and going to miss him, of course, and hope he rests in peace. He's with Randy again, so.
Yeah, yep. I saw Ozzy back at, I don't know, gosh, 10, 11 years ago, 15 years ago. I can't remember. The time is a blur. At Ozfest one time, and gosh, he was something else. Definitely one of the true classic rockers. I mean, there's not many people that could do what he did. He was something else, man. He really was.
Actually, was talking to Eddie about Ozzy. I mentioned to him one of the first times I talked to him about him being on tour with Sabbath, and his exact words were, "Oh, those guys are even crazier than we are."
Yeah. Did you see the movie called The Dirt on the Motley Crue, the documentary? It's like I don't know, it came out a few years back. It's called The Dirt. It's a Motley Crue documentary, not documentary, but it's a movie they made after with all actors after their whole, the whole thing.
No, I did not see that.
It's pretty. I mean, it's very exaggerated, of course, in a lot of ways. But there's a scene in there. David Lee Roth makes an appearance. Not the real one, of course. And Ozzy makes an appearance. And they're at some hotel somewhere, and Ozzy comes out to the pool, and they're all sitting at the pool, and he just starts peeing on the ground, and it's something. I'll tell you, he was
that
quite.
Sounds like Ozzy.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Well, George, again, thank you for coming on, and God bless Ozzy. I thank you for all the wonderful years of music we had, and just, gosh, it's crazy, isn't it? All our heroes are dying.
Yeah, they're all. I knew this day wasn't far away, but now that it's here, it definitely sucks, and
yeah.
So let's just take time to honor him, and for the next couple of days we'll be playing nothing but Sabbath.
Yeah. Yep. Well, let's jump right into some questions here. So, George, I'm gonna put something up on the stage. You recognize that picture?
Yeah, that's from Neptune Boulevard. I'd say about 1985, maybe.
Yeah.
If you notice in the background, you can see a couple EVH guitars on the rack, the tree we called it. And I think that was the that might have been the 5150 tour. I was doing some backup guitars for him,
Yeah.
For had on stage in case something happened to one of his stage guitars. But that's what I believe that was from.
Yeah.
That's how I used to do them. I used to do racks of them, unless there was a specific guitar that he wanted or needed for some reason. Basically, it wasn't a situation where I would just do one at a time.
Right.
It was also not a common thing.
Right.
So maybe every couple of years. In the early days, it was more often, but towards the mid '80s. Maybe once a year, twice a year, I'd get the call and do a bunch of guitars. That's basically how it was done.
Yep. How did you get started at Kramer, George? And what year would it have been when you started?
Well, I just got out of high school, and it was Kramer was actually my first real job. When I was in high school, I was in Votech, and that's where I learned how to paint, painting cars and stuff. And I actually had a job while I was in high school. It's part of the curriculum. We worked in, it was like a CIE thing where you would actually go out to work and you'd get credits for school. So I had a job in a body shop painting, and but that was, through school. But working at Kramer, that was my first real job. And here's the thing. In my neighborhood, I grew up in Wall Township, was the next town over from Neptune. They actually border each other in a few different locations, and everybody in my school, every guy anyway, were musicians, knew about Kramer. We all knew somebody who worked there. And, at that time, we're talking 80, 81, 82. We all knew people who were working there, older kids who had graduated. And that was like the first job they wanted to get was a job at Kramer.
Yeah.
So I knew a couple of my older friends worked there and stuff. But I didn't think anything of it. I mean, I wasn't going to go there to tune guitars or anything. So I was like, screw it, I'll just go work in the body shop. So one day here's an odd thing. I was a bouncer at a local club called the Osbourne.
Yep.
And they used me for a lure. They actually called me the lure because I was the smallest guy. What they would do is they would send me into fights, and they would wait for somebody to throw a punch at me because they always did. And then all the other big guys would jump in. But anyway, one of the guys I met there who was another lure was a guy named Eddie Rowland. He was a friend of mine, but I really got close to him there. Eddie was a painter at Kramer. And he was there, I guess, from 80. He was a couple of years older than me. So 80 to 83, maybe he left, 84, I don't remember. But he asked me, he said, man, what are you doing for a living now? I was like, I'm trying to find a job in a body shop. He goes, why don't you come to work with me, man, painting guitars? And I had no idea that's what he did.
Yeah.
And I asked him what was involved, and he told me. So I went down and I got the job. That's how I started.
Yeah. That's great. And then what year was that again? Would you say?
That would have been, I started in December of 1982.
1982. So
yeah, I was 18 years old.
So, oh gosh, that's crazy. That's awesome. 1982. Let's see. How old was I? I was 9. And I'd heard I was kind of a Van Halen fan. I was a little bit young. I know like I was telling you earlier when you were chatting on the phone, my mom was she was big into Rod Stewart. So I went to my first concert, which was the Rod Stewart concert in 1981. I think it was the Tonight I'm Yours tour, and it's so ironic, and then you turn to Van Halen. But I tell you, the 80s were just such a classic time, weren't they? They were. It
was a magical time, and I'll tell you what, it was a big time in music. Well, first of all, it was the beginning of the hair band era.
Yeah.
And but not only that, I mean, New Jersey was just coming alive with music.
Right.
I'll give you for example. In the early days, early 80s, all the local bands. I'll give you a heads up on some of the local bands. We had Xyrus, which was my buddy Billy Chamberlain's band, and Zach Wilde was in that band.
Yep.
And we had Tyrus, which was another local band, and Dean and Bobby DeLeo were in that band.
Yep.
From Stone Temple Pilots. And then we had John Bon Jovi and the Wild Ones, which I really don't feel like talking about. But these were all local bands that played in all the local clubs back in those days. And I could tell you what, at Kramer, we had some fantastic musicians. I mean, you want to talk about all the cream of the crop. I mean, anybody who could play, and they needed a job, that's where they wanted to work. Because you look at it this way: the common denominator of everyone who worked there was music.
Right.
Because basically saying you wouldn't be working at Kramer if you weren't a musician or wanted to be affiliated with the music business somehow, because the job wasn't that great.
Sure.
We were there because we wanted to be around guitars, play guitars, for whatever reason. Because even though I wasn't there to sit on the line and tune guitars, I was a musician.
Yeah.
And both my brothers are, my whole family, we've always been that way. So it was interesting to me. Eddie Rowland, who got me the job there, he wasn't a musician. He was just a guy who painted cars and stuff. And, I knew his younger brothers, and he brought me in, but he had no interest in really being there. So he was kind of like looking to get out of that place. And I guess he didn't want to leave him hanging. So I kind of took over for him. I mean, we worked together for a few years. And, when he was working during the day, I was working at night there. I mean, I actually had my own key to Kramer.
Right.
And we would work at night. So we would work at nights together. I'm sure a lot of you guys have heard some of my stories, the pizza guy story and all that other crazy stuff. All those stories are true, I will say.
You got to tell tonight too, George. You gotta tell a few more of those tonight because there might be some folks that haven't heard those, and I always love hearing them again. So
I'll tell you some of those stories. Some stories are so bad I can't tell.
Sure.
I mean, they're good. They're so good, but they're so bad I can't tell. You have to wait for the book on those.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I'll tell you. I was very intimidated when I started working there. I was 18 years old, fresh out of high school. Everybody there was older than me. So I get in there, and I noticed right away when I got in. This is Green Grove, and this is not the place that from that picture you showed earlier. This is a smaller place. This is where all the EVH stuff. I can't say all of it, but a good majority of the Eddie stuff happened. This is on the old place. That's Green Grove, yeah.
Okay.
I was 19 in that picture.
Yeah.
And this would have been at Green Grove, and I was intimidated when I got into that joint, but I could tell right away there was a couple guys who worked there that ran the show. Sure. And what I mean by that is, I mean, we had, of course, there was the offices which were separated from us. And then there was, a floor manager. Back in those days, it was a guy named Chip. And there was, over at Green Grove, there was a guy named Wade. And they ran the floor. They were the floor managers. But there was guys who actually worked there. Right. 3 or 4 of them that actually ran the show. Whereas I knew if I got under these guys' skin in any way, I'd be fired. And those guys in particular, I can name them. Jay Tango, John Hingy, Ed Heller, and I think in the early days, John Cavallo. Those guys were Kramer. Yeah. And when I think of Kramer, I think of those 4 guys because they just had this air about them where, well, they were there longer than anybody, especially Hingy. Right. And you just knew if they didn't want you working there, you wouldn't be there. Right. And so I respected them. And I looked to them more than I did to the floor managers to tell me what was going on, to see what was going on in that factory. For example, Jay Tango, he was there forever. He basically ran the line. And when I say the line, I mean guys that were assembling guitars, tuning guitars. He was the main guy, and he oversaw that. But he held that place together, man. I mean, because there was times. Jay, I think he was in a situation where he was in the military or the reserves, and he had to go away a couple days a month or weekend a month. Anyways, you can tell when he wasn't around because everything was all screwed up. Yeah, and so he held that place together. And another guy who did too was John Hingy. I was very intimidated by John when I first got there because he seemed like he was pissed off at everybody. And the truth of the matter is, I thought he was a company guy where, he bled Kramer red. And I thought that he was the kind of guy that if you did something wrong, he was going to rat you. I read him the wrong way. Yeah. It took me years to realize that he was the kind of guy who was just a hard worker. Right. And that he probably hated the company more than anybody, but he just had a good work ethic. And, he was one of the guys I looked up to in that place. Yeah. Who I can't figure out still to this day, Ed Heller. Ed Heller was, he was a guy who worked there, and he, for the entire time I worked at Kramer, I saw him do maybe 15 seconds of actual work. So I had no idea. What he actually did there, but I did know that he was my idol because this guy, he was that guy who looked like he was busy, but he was doing absolutely nothing, and that's what I aspired to. Yeah, I wanted to be able to go to a job and have everybody think that I was working when I wasn't doing jack shit. You know what I mean? And getting paid for it. So I idolized him. Yeah. And still to this day, I have no idea what he did there. And but I'll tell you what, I looked up to him, I respected him, I idolized him. And maybe someday somebody will tell me what he actually did. But those were the main guys. Yeah. Yeah.
You know, we're going to get into another main guy here in a second. We'll just jump into the chat real quick, George, and we'll see if we got any questions or anybody else jumped in. Yeah, just so you know, the chat, I don't know if you can see it. It is just going bonkers here. We got, let's see, it's Kramer time. Definitely some comments on Ozzy. Johnny Bean says to say hi to you, George.
Hey, Johnny. I got to do Johnny's show. He's been after me for a long time.
Yeah,
I
Johnny,
promised him I would.
He's the guy that got me into this back in 2014. It's a funny story. I've been a Van Halen guy for years and years and years. And of course, our George, you and I were talking about this. Dave Nesdahl, who I know you spoke to, times, passed away. And
he was a good guy.
Yeah, he was a good friend. And Johnny and Dave reached out to me back in 2015 and were pretty much like, hey, you come on the show. And I'd known Johnny since 1998, I think it was, back in the whole trading the cassette Van Halen bootlegs and stuff, And I started doing the show with them, and we were having a ball, and then everything just snowballs. But it's funny how things go. Nick Horton, how you doing? Let's see what else we got. Any questions here? We got a bunch of stuff going on. And my stepson Grayson is in the chat here. My almost 11-year-old stepson who helped me come up with some stuff for YouTube today. What's up, buddy? How you doing? He wants to know if I'm using his mini mic. Yes, I am actually. So, Nelson Rodriguez says, I would like to know if Keith Campbell and David Ennis are doing well. I'm not quite sure on that. All right, so that's pretty much all we got for questions right now that I can see. So let's, George, let's jump into a gentleman that you would know. And I was lucky enough to meet this guy myself back in 2015 or 16, and I got to hang out at his shop. And that is Mr. Paul Unkert. And
I think I know him.
Shop. Can you how did you meet Paul, and was he?
I'll tell you all about it. Well, see, Paul was one of the first people I met when I came to that place. Now he just came out of Guild not that long ago.
Yeah,
and he was the factory repair guy, artist endorsement builder. Arrogant as hell. Paul, he had a chip on his shoulder that whole time he was there. And, I can say whatever I want to say because I love the guy. And sure. we still work together, Yeah. And, but, he was always pissed off at everybody. And everybody was usually pissed off at him, too. So
Yeah.
It's funny. I had the opportunity to work with all three of the artist guys there, of course, Paul, Billy Connelly after him, and then Lumpy, Chris Hofsnyder.
Oh,
so I did work with all of those guys, and Paul and I mean, like I say, we're like brothers. We've been hanging out together for so long because we did Kramer together, and then we did Vaccaro 1 and 2 together. So he's a great guy. He knows he knows what he's doing, So
when you
everybody,
when you came in, I think Paul had told me that. I think he said of course, he did a whole bunch of Van Halen guitars. I think before, correct me if I'm wrong, before you came, the Kramer Ad Frankie, I think, was one. And
the Kramer Ad Frankie was being done when I got there.
Oh, it was. Okay.
That was a point of contention between him and I.
Really?
Yeah, well, because he was a few years older than me, and he was a little bit on the brash side.
Yeah,
and so he calls me. I mean, we were friends. I see his room was right next to my room in Green Grove. So when I had to go into my room, I had to go through his room.
Right.
So I saw him whether I wanted to see him or not. And, we always worked together doing projects. So him and I were, of course, I was working hand in hand with all the artist guys because that was part of my job.
Yeah.
You know, he was he was a pro. Paul was a pro. He still is. And, you know, I mean, he had all the bells and whistles in his little shop, and he knew what he was doing. So, you know, I totally respected the guy. But when it came to paint and stuff, I was like, you know, let me put it this way: when I saw him doing the Kramer ad Frankie, which I know it was, you know, had the quarter on it, and he was cutting tape out because he wanted to get exactly like the original Frankenstein. I was looking at him like, why the hell are you doing that? You know, just certain things didn't make sense. Certain things didn't make sense to me why he was doing what he was doing. So at that point, I said, that's it. This is the last guitar he's painting. I'm doing all the rest of it. And because he was just doing everything, in my opinion, ass backwards. Yeah. You know, so, but that's as far as the painting goes.
Sure.
As far as everything else goes, you know, he was on the ball. But, you know, he's, you know, him and I have this ongoing contention that he did this guitar and I didn't, and I did this guitar and he didn't. The bottom line is, let me tell you something. And this all goes back to the 5150 primarily.
Yeah, we're going to get into
Yeah. And everybody and their brother said they did that guitar. Let me tell you a couple things. Sure. Ed Roman came up to me. I forget where we were at, but I couldn't stand that guy. And I told myself I wasn't going to say anything bad about anybody today, but I have nothing good to say about that dude. But I'll tell you what, he came up to me somewhere, and he told me he painted. And I'm like, and this is before he knew I was a painter there.
The 5150? Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, let me tell you something. He was doing a lot of shady stuff. I'm not going to get into it.
Sure.
But anyway, you know, I got into an argument with him once at East Coast Music Mall. I was up there for some reason, and there was a lightning bolt. What was it? I don't know if it was a Voyager or a Pacer, but it was a lightning bolt graphic. And I knew I had done that one. I knew I had done this particular one he had at the shop.
Yeah.
So he was talking shit, and I bet him that. I think he said that he's the one who painted it. I forget. But the story, how it went was, I bet him $500 that my initials were in that pickup cavity. So he took the bet, and we pulled it. When we pulled the pickup out, my initials were in it, and he wouldn't pay me. So I think the cops had to take me out of the East Coast Music Mall that day. It was one of those situations. But you know, I listen. I was at the Philly Guitar Show in Philadelphia.
Yep.
And I was walking around with a copy of the 5150 hanging over my shoulder, my personal copy.
Sure.
And I was walking through the show, and some guy comes up, taps me on the shoulder, and he says, "Hey, nice guitar. It's almost right. It's almost done accurately." I was like, "What are you talking about?" He says, "Well, I painted the original 5150." And I'm looking at this guy. I'm saying, "Really?" So tell me all about it. And this guy, he just came out of the blue.
Yeah.
So he starts telling me he's Dennis Berardi's cousin, and he was doing guitars for Kramer out of his garage for Dennis, and just all kinds of bullshit stories you heard over the years about everybody saying they wanted to tell you something.
Yeah.
Well, I know we're going to get to the guitar, but I just wanted to get back to the point where Paul and I have arguments over the years who painted what. And to be honest with you, it's so long ago. I mean, I'm 61 years old now. I was doing these guitars when I was a teenager.
Sure.
You know, so it's a long time ago. And to be honest with you, I really don't. It's not that important to me. You know, as far as who did what. That's not really important. The important part about it is it's a Kramer and Eddie played it. You know, who actually did it? I say I did it. Paul says he did. Some guy says he did it. Ed Roman says he did it. Who gives a shit? You know, it got done.
Yep.
But that's where we're at.
It's funny. The picture I just pulled up here, George, I don't know if you can see, that's the Kramer ad Frankie. And that's, you know, I know that Eddie played that during the Diver Down tour in the South American leg, a little bit on the American one. And then he ended up giving it to Rudy Laren, and he signed it. I got other pictures, but I can't find them quick enough. It's not that big of a deal. And then, you know, I think the guitar eventually ended up in Mick Mars's hands. And now the guitar is It's still out there somewhere, but hopefully it makes an appearance. But it's funny, we see these guitars, and then we hear about them, and if you go back, I think Paul told me he left Kramer in December of '82. That's what he said. And again, like you said a few minutes ago, it's hard to remember all this stuff.
No, Paul left in December of '83.
Oh, okay.
December 83. I was there with him for a while, and I can tell you an interesting story about how Paul left. You probably won't like it, but I'm going to tell it anyway. Eddie was at the factory.
Yeah.
Well, Paul has an ego, and rightly so, because he's good at what he does. I have an ego. Anybody in this business who knows what they're doing, they have an ego. So Eddie Van Halen will bring you to your knees if you have an ego. And he did it to many people right in front of me. He's a great guy, but if he doesn't like something or it's not his way, he'll let you know. Yeah. And it was the case where Paul had just presented to him it was a mock-up of the Hot for Teacher guitar.
Yeah.
And I was in the room, Paul was in the room, Andy was in the room, a couple other guys. I think Jeff Metz was in there. And Eddie's in there.
Yeah.
And we had just given Eddie the guitar.
Yeah.
I mean, this wasn't the out the door version, but it was close.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Eddie picks up Paul's there. He's got his arms crossed, and he's all himself. And Eddie brings the guitar right over to the bench and starts ripping it apart.
Yeah.
I mean, taking the thing apart, ripping the pickups out. And I just looked at Paul's face, and he was pissed.
Yeah.
He was pissed. And that was his last day. That was it. Because I remember Eddie had taken the pickups out. I've seen Eddie Van Halen do this. He was rewinding the pickups in that guitar. And he ripped it apart. And it pissed off Unkert to the point where when everybody was out of the room, Unkert said something like, "F this shit. That's it. I'm tired of this shit." And that was it. He was gone.
Yeah.
I remember that. Yeah. And then right away, Connelly came in. Because you weren't doing something like that to Paul. Because Paul, he knew what he was doing. But, you were talking about Eddie Van Halen here. The greatest guitar player ever in history. And he likes things the way he likes them. This is his company. Yeah. Right. So he's going to do what he's going to do. And you got to swallow your pride. Right. He comes in the door. I mean, it happened to me. First time I had met him.
That was my next question. You remember the first time you met him? Yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, he did the same thing to me. Brought me to my knees. I really didn't know the rules on doing guitars for him, but I tell you, I found out real quick because I had painted this guitar for him. It's a striped guitar, red, white stripe, Pacer, whatever. I forget exactly what it was, but it was a Pacer, and I just thought to myself, man, we got to put some clear coat on this thing, man. So I clear coated it, and Eddie Rowland, who saw it while I was doing it, he told me, he's like, Eddie's never going to play that thing. It looked great. Don't get me wrong.
Sure.
He just said, Eddie's never going to play that. So when Eddie came in, I met him. This is after I talked to him for a while or whatever. I gave him the guitar body. He walks over. I hand it to him. He walks over, smiling to the garbage can, just drops it right in. Drops it right in the garbage can. And I was like, all right, So I knew at that point, he didn't care about ripping your soul out and eating it in front of you. Yeah. So, but I learned my lesson. The few instructions I got on painting Van Halen guitars were no designs. I want random stripes. I want so many white stripes. I want so many black stripes.
Yeah.
Seagull here and there. Don't do anything that looks like a pattern. And that was basically it.
Yeah.
And no clear coat. That was the biggest no-no.
Yeah.
Any kind of clear even near that thing. And that's why when I see guys now, there's a lot of guys out there doing replicas for themselves, you know.
Sure.
But they clear coat them, and I'll make a joke like, "Oh man, Eddie, he would never play them." And that's what I mean by it. I don't want people to get into that shape. Oh, this guy's insulting my work or whatever. Because I'll tell you what, there's a lot of guys out there like Kevin Stiles and Stefano Bongini from Italy. There's a lot of guys out there making incredible replicas. You do a fine job yourself, Robert. You know, but you know, these guys spend a lot of time working on these guitars, and they're fantastic. But you know, there were certain rules that we had to follow. But I pretty much had to lay the land, and I did things my way. But as long as I followed those few rules, everything was cool.
George, did you ever were you ever told to relic the guitars, like drag it over the pot or anything?
Oh, yeah.
Or a good friend of mine, Anthony Sajazi, says, George, did you relic them, or did Ed do that himself? I know Ed did a lot by, like, you know, by playing it, but did you guys, were you instructed to do that?
Paul Unkert actually invented relicking. And I remember the conversation we had. It was, we were in Unk's room, it was him and I. We're like, somebody, he was, what was he doing? He was sanding the corners off of one of the bodies we had just done.
Yeah.
And, you know, sand, you know, like, you know, the you know, armrests and stuff. So I said, what are you doing? He's like, Eddie wants it to look like it's worn, you know?
Yeah.
So before you know it, 15 minutes later, we're kicking this thing across the floor.
That's so
kicking it back and forth to get to each other.
Yeah.
On the concrete floor, you know? And, yeah. So I guess he invented it, because I don't think anybody was doing that shit back then. So, yep.
That's crazy. That's so much. You know, it's funny. I remember a story when I met with Paul back in, like I said, 16. Went out to Tom's River where he lives, and he showed me. I brought a couple guitars out. He stamped it Unk and everything. It was cool, you know. But I remember he told me, sure, there's a guitar, and you might remember this one, George. I don't know if you do or not, but it was Eddie played it during where he messed around with it during the 1983 January NAM show, and it was called it developed the name the Neptune Kramer, and it was a basic stripe Frankenstrat type guitar.
With the polka dots,
black stripes that were like
black dots on it.
Yeah, the black dots, and it's like dripping down and everything.
Yeah,
and it's funny.
I had nothing to do with that guitar. That was. I know exactly the guitar you're talking about, and story is. My buddy Steve Chigner, he's the one. At the factory, Steve probably spent more time with Eddie than anybody else. Yeah, I mean, he was like Eddie's little gopher kind of guy.
Is that the guy Steve Z on the Kramer?
Yeah, Steve. That's him, Steve Chigner.
Okay. Yeah.
And you know, he's one of my best friends, and he was there when I started, and. You know, his Van Halen stories are probably the best ones, because he spent the most time with them. Yeah. But it was an after-hours deal. I wasn't there, so I can't really tell you. But you know, I do know the gist of it, and I do know that Eddie, Steve, Andy, Dennis were all at Kramer's after hours, and Eddie was screwing around, and they did this guitar. And, you know, there was some Peruvian marching powder involved. And, you know, one thing led to another, and that guitar got done. I had nothing to do with that. And I would say that's probably the one guitar that went through there that we didn't have something to do with, either Uncle or me or anybody else there. That one Kramer Neptune, that's the one.
Yeah. It's funny. They all seem to have their own personality. You know, it's funny. You look at all these different guitars, and I remember, you know, and you kind of said the same thing. And it's funny. It's interesting, you know, as a fan, and being into this stuff for all these years, and talking to the folks that were there, that painted these things, that built these things, that dealt with the intoxicated Eddie, the high Eddie, the sober Eddie, whatever. You know, no matter what phase he came in, I remember Paul telling me, we'd be at the factory working, and just all of a sudden one day, boom, Eddie Van Halen walks in, like no one, unannounced, and like, hey, I want a guitar done by the end of today. I want it painted, built. Like, what's going to take way more than that to dry? No, I want it done. I'm going to be back in 8 hours. Like, it's funny, you hear these stories, but what's funny is the consistency between what you guys say. And, I remember Paul telling me, and George, I'm sure I would imagine you'd agree. Paul was like, we had all this paint. Some of it was sunset orange, red, and some of it was flame red. Some of it was Wimbledon white. Some of it was, whatever. And we had, and it was all, his words were willy-nilly. You just cut the stripes willy-nilly. There was no rhyme or reason to any of it.
No. And that's where I had the benefit of doing what I did, and where I feel a lot of respect for the guys that replicate these things, because it's a hell of a lot easier to do these things from scratch with no no borders or rules to follow than it is to try to replicate something that's already done. That's a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you know that.
Yeah, sure.
So, I mean, another thing too is when I was doing these guitars, the Van Halens, a lot of times I was doing 20 at a pop, for whatever reason. I mean, he gave them 2 or 3. He always got them.
Yeah.
I mean, we didn't sell these to anybody. He always got them. They went to him. But what he did with them, God only knows. I mean, a lot of the bodies sat on the floor of his 5150 studio. They just sat there, and, his guitar tech put them together, which kind of gets back to the whole 5150 thing. Now, you guys, I don't know if you understand this. A lot of guys don't. They think the 5150 was a specific designated guitar. It wasn't.
Yeah.
It was a guitar that was just in a group of other bodies that were painted. It didn't become the 5150 until Ed put those stickers on it.
Sure.
Because we didn't do that. He did that.
Do you remember? That brings up a good point, Joe. I mean to cut you off, but I was going to say, so here is, I'll show this picture here again in a minute. This is the 5150 I'm having built by a buddy of mine right now. But this particular picture shows some of the backup guitars and the 5150, which I believe you painted. There's the 5150. There's one called
I probably did almost all those guitars.
Yeah.
That's how I would do them. I would do a whole rack, and we would send the bodies. Sometimes Paul would build them, or Connelly. I would say in the early days, let's go back a little bit. Let's go back to 82, sure. 81, when Eddie first came to the factory. My buddy, Eddie Rowland, who got me the job there, he spent a lot of time with Eddie. And Eddie was there a few times back in those days. All right, for example, that awesome replica you have made of the double neck. The double neck, the golden
one. Yeah.
Eddie Rowland painted that one. And, he did a lot of early Eddie stuff. But what was I going to say? I totally lost my train of thought.
On all the backup 5150 guitars?
Oh yeah, and that's how we would do them. From what I remember, when on the batch that the 5150 came out of.
Yeah.
From what I remember, and you're talking over 40 years ago. Sure. I remember a batch of 6 bodies.
Yeah.
And I remember 3 swamp ash, and I remember 3 basswood.
Yeah.
After that point, from that point on, everything was basswood.
Sure.
But at that point, swamp ash, well, I'll tell you right now, swamp ash is the better tone wood.
Sure.
And the reason why everybody's going to basswood instead of swamp ash, because anybody who refinishes guitars knows that swamp ash is a pain in the ass to finish. Yeah. It's open grain. It's a nightmare.
Yeah.
But it's a great tone wood. I mean, it's the best tone wood you can get. But I had the 3 basswood and the 3 swamp ash, and we just did them. We just did them whatever we did. And how the 5150 became the 5150 was, I guess Ed was just looking through the bodies. He liked this stripe pattern better than the other ones.
Yeah.
And that particular body, and that just became the 5150. It's not like the 5150 was built as the 5150. That never happened.
Right.
So It was just, he picked that body out of a group of bodies, and he decided this is the one I like. This is the one that feels good to me. I'm going to build this one, or his tech is going to build it, or somebody's going to build it. And this is going to be the one that I use all the time. That's where it came from. Then the stickers went on it, this and that and the other thing. So I mean, you could argue with me to the end of time. It doesn't really matter to me. In my opinion, that's how things went down. That's how it came to be. And that's how that guitar is the most iconic guitar in the world right now. And there's really not much more to say to it than that, except for the old question of, what do I think it was, swamp ash or basswood? I think it was swamp ash. And why do I think that? Because if you look at that picture you just put up, I think he picked one of the swamp ash bodies out. Yeah, because if you look at the upper left-hand corner where the grain is, you can see that's swamp ash grain in there. That's not basswood. That is not basswood grain. I know that. I mean, I've handled thousands and thousands of bodies. So I know what the grain's like. I can tell you, with my eyes closed, I can feel it and tell you. So that's a swamp ash. That's a swamp ash body. After that point, after Paul Unkert had left and just left, Billy Connelly took the reins. Oh man, I missed that guy. Yeah, he was great, man. I mean, he was older than me, and but man, what a nice guy. I mean, him and I had some stories. I just, you know what? I'll tell you, Rob, it bothers me sometimes because these guys are all gone now. They passed on and stuff. And you just wish they were around to verify some of the stories you tell. Yeah. You know? Like the whole thing about that, I told that story about Eddie and Valerie arguing in the stock room about David Lee Roth, and Valerie giving Eddie the ultimatum: if you don't kick, it's either him or me. You either get rid of David or I'm gone, you know? People just don't believe me when I tell them that. It's the truth. I heard it with my ears. Connelly was there. I just wish he was around just to verify. I mean, I wish he was around because I love the guy, but, you know. Anyway, when Connelly first started, he got thrown right into the fire because he came in when he literally walked in the doors of Kramer when Eddie was there. Yeah. So, because Unkert had just walked out. And Eddie was still there at the factory. Right. Connelly walked in. Connelly was still using all Paul's stuff. All Paul's stuff was still there. And right away, so basically at that point, Paul had started the Hot for Teacher. Yeah. Or whatever you guys in Van Halen call it. And Connelly finished it. Yeah. But not only that, no, we're talking, this is a year later. This is December of '83. And this is not only then were we doing the Hot for Teacher, we were also doing the launch of the Berettas. Yep. So you're talking
the body style switch, the pickup slant and everything, right?
Yeah. So those were the prototypes. That's a funny story. I know everybody's heard it before, but the No Bozo story. And Connelly was, man, I feel bad for him because, well, we can get into that story later if you want, but it was a trial by fire for Bill. You know? Yeah. And he pulled it off, but it wasn't easy, man. He was a nervous wreck because you don't come in and replace somebody like Unkert and think it's going to be easy, because it wasn't, you know. Yeah. But he pulled it off, man. And I'll tell you what, he probably ended up doing more Van Halen guitars than anybody. Billy Connelly.
Even really more than
all in all. Yeah. And, you know, he did a lot of those banana headstocks. I mean, Paul's the one who started it, but Billy probably did more of them, you know. So if you're going to ask me who was better, of course, Paul was better. And there's no question about it. But Billy could hold his own. Billy was good. Plus, he was a great guy. Yeah. You know?
George,
I really miss him.
If you had to make a call, like, obviously, you know, Eddie's come out and said, oh, you know, in multiple interviews and guitar magazines and Guitar Aficionado, you know, oh, we only built 3-4 Kramer's guitars, and we all know that's garbage. Those were maybe the main ones. There was a lot, but if you know, a lot of them were auctioned off, a lot of them were giveaways. You know, there's a whole bunch of Hard Rock Cafe. If you had
the Rock and Roll Cafe, whatever the hell that place is.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
We did a bunch of those, and they hung them up in all the rock and roll rock and roll cafe, or whatever it was.
Yeah, the Hard Rock Cafe. Yeah,
Hard Rock Cafe. Yeah,
yep.
we did a bunch of those, and they went right there.
Yep.
Eddie autographed them or whatever he did, and they hung in there. Like God only knows what happened to him at that point. But did Eddie have anything to do? Excuse me. Did Eddie have anything to do with those actual guitars? Like, did he ever actually hold them? No.
Yeah.
The most he did to them was sign them.
Yeah.
And hand them to the Hard Rock Cafe. But they were his guitars. I mean, we did not sell Eddie replicas to the public. We just didn't do it. So
if you had to give it a number from say 1982 when Eddie started with Kramer to right up to through Paul, through you, to
how many were made?
How many would you say were actually striped Kramer bodies?
Oh shit!
Maybe 100.
I personally striped at least 50.
Okay.
Maybe more. I'd say probably more than 50.
Paul probably did another 25 to 50, right?
No, you didn't do anywhere near that.
Oh, really? Okay.
No, nowhere near that. No. I don't know where he comes up. Sometimes I feel like slapping him. I don't know where he comes up with those kind of crazy numbers. First of all, he didn't have time to do that stuff.
Yeah.
I didn't have time to do any of that stuff. He definitely didn't have time to do it. Because I know how long it takes me to do one of them, and I know how long it took him to do one. So there's no way he did that, man. No way in hell.
Let me ask you this, Stuart. So this is a question that I get a lot, and you and I talked about it earlier. You mentioned it. You said, back you feel bad for the guys like me and other folks, that try to replicate these because you're trying to replicate something, as Paul used to say, was done willy-nilly. With oil spray and just whatever. I was told that you could stripe a Eddie Van Halen guitar in about a day, and the white stripes were all done. And then
I was doing 20 or 30 a day.
Oh my gosh! So this is my question. So that's crazy. That's awesome. You said that because I was told that you'd spray it all white, and then you'd tape it up. Spray it all red, and then the easiest and quickest part was the black stripes because you would literally just lay these envelopes on or cardboard.
That was me. That was me. I'll tell you that story. You know what? It's a shame because I was going to send you a picture.
Yeah.
First of all, let me apologize about something here. I had the misfortune of having all my Green Grove photos ruined in a basement flood. Everything I had from Green Grove, I had in the basement, and I came home from work one day, and my roommate was banging some girl on the washing machine downstairs at the house, and I don't know, and the fill hose came out of the back of the washer because it was a rowdy minute and 30 seconds, and the next time he started the washing machine, the whole basement flooded out, so I lost almost all my pictures of Green Grove. And you could tell because when you see some of my pictures from Green Grove, they have water damage on them. Yeah. So I did salvage a few of them, but most of them were messed up. And so I was like, if I could just show some of these guys these pictures I had, because I had some great shots of Eddie and all these guitars and all that. So my best ones were ruined. Anyway, thank God I did have a camera at Kramer all the time. That's one thing probably the best thing I ever did working there was always have a camera with me.
Yeah.
And, those were back in the days when you had to go to Photomat and all the bullshit. But it was worthwhile now because a lot of the pictures I have are only ones that people would see from that.
Right.
Yeah. But I was lucky, man, because I wasn't, believe me when I tell you this, I wasn't nearly the most important guy in that place, not even by a long shot, which goes to figure out how many times they tried to fire me and did fire me. So I wasn't even close to being the most important guy at that place.
Yeah.
But my purpose now, I think, is just to keep the place alive. You know what I mean? Keep the memory alive. And I think of all the things I did at Kramer, that's doing what I'm doing now is probably the most important thing. Keeping the legacy going, you know, keeping it out of Gibson, because Gibson wants to own everything about the legacy.
Oh yeah.
You know, and it just aggravates the living shit out of me. But so, you know, I will say that I was lucky in comparison to everyone else, because I'll tell you what, if anybody wants to know what it was like working at that place, I'll just tell you straight up, because it's probably gonna hurt some of you all, because a lot of you people have told me, oh, it must have been the dream job here and working on guitars. No, it wasn't. That working that place sucked.
Yeah.
And why did it suck? Well, there's a lot of reasons why. More so for me, because I didn't say I was working harder than everybody else. I wasn't. But with all the chemicals and everything I was working with, it was brutal. But it wasn't that. It was the fact that, especially in the early days, and this is, when I say early days, I mean before Klein came in, right when ESP was starting in with us, our workload was off the chain, man. I mean, it was me and the Greek, and we were painting, I mean, hundreds of bodies a day.
Wow.
Let me put it this way. Even when I was in Neptune Boulevard, I had 25 to 30 guys sanding and buffing guitars that I painted myself. Yeah. That's a lot of guys. That's a lot of guys to feed, you know, with bodies to sand and buff every day. So the workload was unbelievable. I painted tens of thousands of guitars, you know, and just, I was the highest paid guy in the factory. I wasn't making shit. So they didn't pay anybody anything.
Yeah.
You know, and it got so bad that it was so strict out on the line. I keep saying the line. When I say the line, I mean everywhere outside of my room.
Yeah.
It was so strict on the line by the mid-'80s that those poor bastards out there on the line couldn't even go to the bathroom when they had to go. They were only allowed to go to the bathroom once or twice a day. They let them go once in the morning and once in the afternoon. You know, that's how strict stuff was there.
Yeah.
And you know, that's why they wanted to fire me all the time, because I didn't listen to anyone. I just walked around, do whatever I want. Because you know why? I wasn't the easiest guy to replace. So I got away with more than most people did there. Not that they didn't try to replace me many times, but I just played the game, you know?
Yeah.
Okay, they get rid of me. I fucking get rid of Felice. They fire me. I just look at my watch. 2 weeks has gone by. Okay, I'll go back, because you know the new guys fucked everything up by then. So I'll just show back up, and they'll be like, "Oh, okay, come on back," you know.
Yeah.
So, but you know, the guys out in the line, I really feel bad for them because the way they were treated, and not so much by, you know, the four guys who were running the show, Tango and Hingy and Helen, not by them, but by the floor managers and stuff. You know, Andy ran the factory. He ran the factory, but Andy was a great guy, and he was another guy I idolized. So he wasn't the one slave driving these guys per se. You know, it was the floor managers. And I have nothing good to say about anybody who ran the floor at that place. Yeah. Back in Green Grove or Neptune Boulevard. Because I want to tell you something. I want to send this message out to everyone out there who's in a position of authority. If you're in a position of authority and you treat people like shit, I don't care how much time goes by, those people are always going to remember that, you know? And when they run into you 20 years later, 25 years later, that's the first thing that's going to pop into their mind, is how you treated them when they worked for you. Yeah. And if that's how you treat people that are working for you or under you, then you're in the wrong job. Somebody else should have your job. Yeah. You know? So that's just a statement I want to make. And if you're in that position and that's how you act, I hope you change your ways. But anyway, you know, it wasn't the greatest place to work. I mean, you busted your ass in that place. Like, for example, me and Hingy and all of us, back before Dennis Klein started, this is 82, 83.
Yeah.
We were doing all the graphics, me and Eddie, Roland, and we'd tape, you know, the chevrons, the bent tubes, all that stuff, you know, all the stupid graphics back in the day that are highly collectible now.
Right.
We were doing those then, you know, the lightning bolts and all that shit. And we were behind schedule because not only did we have to do those, they took time to tape up. Right. So what they would do is, Dennis and all those guys would offer us guys $5, like Tango or Hingy, $5 for every graphic that they did after hours. So, those guys would come in at night, we'd take graphics. They never got paid. They'd always find a way not to pay you and stick it up your ass. It just wasn't, not to break everybody's illusion of what Kramer was like, but it wasn't the greatest job in the world. That I will say. Although the camaraderie of the guys that worked there was special.
Yeah.
I mean, when I think about the guys on the line, I'll talk about some of the musicians we had. Those freaking guys could play. I mean, we had guys like Mike Aronis, who was a Dean's List at Berkeley. We had Mike Scrivani, Tom Tafaro, who recently passed away, Joey Taylor. And we had blues legends working there on the line. These guys are tuning guitars. Gary Cavaco, Billy Hector. These guys are like blues icons of the Northeast, Yeah. And so it's like, man, you walk around that place, Paul DeCesar, all these guys, these are some great musicians in this place.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons. I don't want to get into the whole Bon Jovi thing, but I don't know. When you walked into that place, you better have respect for the people around you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Especially being a musician, because if you look down on anybody for anything in there for any reason, you were wrong.
Yeah.
So I could say it because I lived it.
Sure.
But I'll tell you, a lot of people in there really got screwed. So let's have some questions. You got any questions?
Yeah, we do have a couple questions, George. I just want to say one thing that you touched on that, you and I being friends, I'll tell you, you kind of hit a nerve in a positive way. I've been a supervisor for many years. You and I have talked about this a little bit, I guess, in the past. And I'll tell you, you were talking about if you're not treating your people right, or if you're not a good boss, you're not a good supervisor, director, whatever it is, and then you run into these people years later, the first thing they're going to remember is, oh, that guy was an asshole, or that lady was a jerk, or whatever. Yeah. I'll tell you something. My dad taught me something. I'm in my early 50s and been in management for a long time. I guess I'm kind of in the minority to a certain extent, but my dad, my old man, taught me something that I still remember today, and that is, if you're not going above and beyond for what you're asking your people to do, and you're not in the trenches with them and at least spending some, I mean, you got your office stuff you got to do. You got to, obviously you got to do what you got to do. But if you're not spending time with them, doing their job, seeing their end of things and communicating with them and getting their respect, you're not a real manager. So many supervisors just, email and text and pass, hey, have a good night, whatever. And, and you get that isolation. You isolate yourself from your people. And I tell you, that is the most important thing my old man taught me. And I still, to this day, try to do that with my employees. And there might be one or two of them watching right now. And I'm certainly not going to say I'm the best supervisor out there, but I will say that I think anybody that's ever worked for me would say, at least I'm honest, and I try to support them, and I try to back them up. And if something happens, I'm in their corner, and I'm in the trench. And it's funny you said that, because that means a lot to me. And I'll
tell you, Rob, the one guy who I have ultimate respect for, that was the vice president of Kramer Guitar Company, was Andy Papichio. Andy Papichio, he was in charge of manufacturing. Don't get me wrong, he wasn't in the back with the grunts. He was up in the front office when I was there. But you see, here's the difference. Andy had street cred.
Sure.
Because Andy was the original painter at Kramer.
Yeah.
And he started out at the very bottom in the very beginning. And he worked his way up through the ranks all the way to vice president. And let me tell you something. If there was anybody who intimidated the hell out of me, it was him. I mean, it didn't matter who walked back. I could care less if Dennis, all them guys walked in the back. But when Andy walked in the back, I was at attention. I knew where he was. I knew what he was doing. I knew who he was looking at. Man, I really respected him. I still respect him. He's still a powerhouse in the music business to this day. The only one of them from the front offices who still is. I mean, the music business would not be, the guitar business would not be what it is today without that guy. You know, and I had a total respect for him, but man, he had a way about him. I mean, he just had that look on his face when he came into the back. He wasn't a man of many words. He would give you that look. You know what I mean? He would give you that look, and that look conveyed.
Yeah.
You know, so I'll never forget that. But I think I just figured out what Ed Heller's job was in the very beginning of this whole thing tonight. I was like, man, I wonder what Ed ever did, because I never seen him actually do anything. I think I just realized what his job was. I think Ed's job was to intercept whatever information was given to Wade, the shop foreman, by Andy, and make that information work.
Yeah.
Because if you left it up to Wade to let it work, everything would have went down the tubes. So I think what he did was, what Wade would tell people in the factory what he wanted done. So I think what Heller did was he tried to take what Wade said, make sense of it, which wasn't an easy thing to do, and then find an actual right way to do it, if there was a right way to do it. And that would have been a very, very important job. Because, I don't know, I'm not saying anything against Wade. I didn't like the guy. But I could say that the problem with it, I think, it wasn't a communication barrier. It was a border thing, because he was from Texas.
Right.
He came up with Buddy Blaze. It was a package deal. Buddy came up, and they wanted Buddy, so they had to take Wade. And I don't know if you've ever dealt with anybody from Texas before, but
I have.
Texas, from Texas, they're awesome. Some of my favorite people in the world are from Texas. But the problem is they're too nice.
Right.
You can't get a read on them.
Right.
Like, for example, you never knew where Wade was coming from, because he was always nice. He was always smiling. So you never knew if you should come up and go up to him and say something, because he could be in a bad mood, but you wouldn't know it because he'd be smiling. And by the time you got halfway into your balls deep in it, and you realize, holy shit, I shouldn't have said this at the time I said it, you know? That's what's one thing about us guys from Jersey. We're assholes right from the gate. When you look at us, you see us at face value. First off, you know the mood we're in, because you can see it right on our face. You know? So you know, shit, I'm gonna stay away from this guy. Couldn't get that with Wade, you know. So that's why you shouldn't have a guy from Texas running a company from Jersey. You got to be able to read somebody.
Sure.
And that's one thing about being from Jersey. You know right from the gate, we don't like you, and we're going to be a jerk off. So at least you got that going for you.
I always respect
it. Embrace your inner jerk off in this, because for the world in general, it's better if people know where you're coming from.
Sure.
Enough said.
No, I tell you, George, it's funny. I have a lot of friends from New York, and one of the biggest things I respect from them is where the fuck they are coming from. Barney, stop. Oh, hold on. Come here, Barney. Come here. Barney wants to make an appearance. He's been sitting here the whole time. This is my buddy, Barney.
Hey, Barney.
Say hi,
What's up?
Say hi. Say hi. What do you think? Yeah, Barney's a legend in the YouTube community. You know, it's funny. Andy Papichio, I've talked to Andy a handful of times. You know, obviously, the president of Floyd Rose and whatever. And I've met with I've met Floyd Rose personally a handful of times. It's funny. I got a funny story for you, George, and we'll get into some questions real quick. You know the old where is it? Hold on. I'm sure you do. You know the old original Floyd Rose? They used to call them the whale tails. This is I know. Well. Yeah, it's got the big, huge steel block and the old. I know well. Yeah. Well, this is
when they first came in the factory.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's funny. I in 2019, this is an original Hanson Metalworks one too. I ran into Floyd Rose back in 19 at NAM. And I was showing him some pictures of that. And he goes, oh, yeah, we still make those today. And you know what's funny to me? And I say funny. It's not funny. It's interesting. Because I mean, you're talking to guys. I mean, I was born in '73, so I'm an old timer too. I mean, you and I are both in that somewhat generation.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you ask these guys, you know, hey, you know, do you remember this back in 1982, 83? These freaking guys don't remember all that shit. They weren't thinking about what was going to happen in 2025. They remember pieces and screenshots of shit. So, you know, Floyd was like, oh, yeah, we still make those today. I'm like thinking to myself, dude, you haven't made these since 1982.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to tell Floyd Rose that. I'm not going to tell him that.
Yeah.
Funny, Andy and I have talked a couple of times about it.
You know, they're painting a broad stroke there.
Exactly. Yeah. But it's funny too because you know Ed is the same way. You know, before bless his heart. You know, they used to ask Eddie questions about his Frankenstein.
Forget it. Yeah.
I never had a Kramer my Frankie. Yeah, you did. He didn't. You don't remember any of that.
No, Ed has a selective memory. I'm not saying it in a derogatory way. I'm just saying.
Right, exactly.
If Ed's lips were moving, he's bullshitting it. Some way, somehow, some way. You know?
Yeah.
He had so much other shit going on in his mind that if you had to ask him anything like that, the odds of you getting a legitimate straight answer are slim to nil. You know, it's just not going to happen. Because just a picture if you were a rock star and you had a trillion other things on your mind. If somebody asks you some dumbass question about a guitar, you're not going to remember. You're not going to remember. You're not going to know. You're not even going to care. You know.
Exactly.
So.
Well, I mean, you know, all us fans, we live in the past. We look at the history. We nitpick everything. You know, Ed was always looking forward. He wasn't looking in the past. He didn't remember all this stuff, you know. So it's funny when people say, "Oh, Ed said that he didn't do this." Well, you can't. You know, I know if you want the right answer, go to the horse's mouth. I get that mentality. I understand that, but there's certain times you got to say, "Well, that's not the case." But you know, it was funny.
Well, going back, you had mentioned earlier, and I know this is an important thing because a lot of guys watching this interview right now are guys that do replicas.
Sure.
So I want to talk to them right now and, you know, and talk to you guys about some of the stripings. Now, you're right, what you said about the manila folder. I came up with that because I was doing so many of them. It was taking so much time. And all the time I spent doing these Van Halen guitars was taken away from my actual work.
Right.
You know, I mean, they didn't consider my Van Halen's jobs part of my job. That was just extracurricular stuff that I better get done, but I better get done all the Spectres that I'm doing. And I better get done all the other stuff. So anytime I got Van Halen stuff in there, it was a pain in the neck.
Yeah.
Because all it was doing was taking away from the stuff that I had to get done.
Right.
So I had to find a way to shorten it, to shorten the process. So what I would do is I would have the tree, like you said, spray them all white. Well, first of all, everything was sealed in polyester.
Yeah.
Then the bodies went off to sand and buff. They sanded and buffed them. I got them back the next day. They were sealed. Then I'd spray them all white, Wimbledon white, whatever white I used at the time. In the early days, it was all acrylic lacquer. Or I would what I would do is I would cut corners in the early days, and I would seal them with white polyester. So
really?
If I sealed them with white polyester, then I wouldn't have to seal them. I could seal and paint white in one application instead of two. So that's what I would do. And then I'd have them on the tree, and I actually have a picture somewhere. I'll have to send it to you, so you can post it on your. Oh,
please do.
And it has the tree, and it has all white bodies on the one side of it. On the other side, I would tape them one after another, until there was 10 of them taped, and then real quick I'd spray the red on, and then put them on the other side of the rack. And here's the thing: there's a sweet spot. Now, you know the sweet spot when you're pulling off tape.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's like it's magic. It's magic.
Yeah. You don't want to pull it off too early, and you don't want to pull it off when it's completely dry either.
Why
then you get all those pieces, you know. You know what I'm talking about.
Yes, I do.
So there's that window you have where you have to get that tape off. And, the black stripes are a pain in the ass. So I was like, you know what? And the seagulls, too. So I just grabbed a couple manila folders. I cut the stripes out in the folder, edged them with tape, and then I just would hold the folder over the body and hit it with black spray bomb. That's how the black stripe is.
Exactly what I was wanting to hear you say for all this time, because Paul told me this, and you and I talked about this a while back. And nobody can recreate how that overspray. Here's my and George. I'm going to tell you
on the edges.
Painted this, not this exact one, but Eddie's. See this overspray here and all this here. How it that's because you did that Manila thing, and I've been saying that for years. And you just
a lot of times the black stripe would end right on the face. It wouldn't even go around the corner.
Exactly,
and it's because of the folder.
Yeah,
that's how you could always tell ones that I did.
Yeah.
The ones that I did always had that.
Yeah.
If the stripe went all clean all the way around the body, I didn't do it.
And that is the toughest thing to replicate, because if you work too hard to do it, it looks too labored. It just looks too much. And I tell you, George, that is there's so many viewers right here now that I wanted to hear that, because I've been saying that for years, and I'm so glad you said that. Yeah, that's awesome.
Seagulls too. With the seagulls, when I did those early ones,
pain in the ass, aren't they?
Yeah, they were all done with this folder. It's a manila folder. Actually, I have a picture from Kramer of one of my. I took pictures of my spray booths, and in the distance, you can see I have the manila folders tucked inside a pipe. A conduit pipe on the wall next to the booth that have the stripes cut out for the Van Halen guitars. I'll send you that picture.
Yes.
It's on my Kramer, Neptune, New Jersey Facebook page too.
Oh, that's awesome. So Robbie Stingle, who worked at Kramer, says, George, I heard Edward and Valerie fighting at the factory one time. The whole factory heard it. For what it's worth, Billy was awesome and Jeff Metz was my boss, he says.
Oh, okay. You see, now I don't remember him, and I'll tell you why. There's a lot of guys that worked at Kramer. I mean, I remember Jeff Metz, obviously. I don't remember this gentleman you're speaking of now, because I was isolated. I was in my room, and there are a few people I know. Even though I worked there for years, that'll come up to me and say, "Hey, I worked at Kramer. Don't you remember me?" And I'm sorry if I don't, because I spent a lot of time isolated in my room, and I didn't meet a lot of guys there, even though they were there for years. And I would have, I didn't even know you worked there, So that's one of those cases. Because I'm the old guard, going back to Green Grove. So of course Jeff and Cavallo and Hingy and all those guys. I mean, we came up together. Yeah. But when you start getting into Neptune Boulevard, up in that era, a lot of the newer guys, I had never met. I mean, there's guys that just stood out at that place, like Chris Nickerson. Chris worked on the line at Kramer, and he was, as soon as you opened my doors to my area, my room, he was there. That was that spot on the line. And that kid, man, he made me laugh every freaking day, because you'd come out one day and he'd be wearing a dress, or you'd come out, he'd have his hair like Pippi Longstocking. He just made you laugh. Yeah. So you never forget people like that.
No, you don't.
But a lot of people came through that place. A lot of people came through there, and if anybody has mentioned that they worked there and I didn't recognize them for whatever reason, I apologize.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to blow you off or nothing like that. I just don't remember you.
Yeah, no, it's tough. So Johnny Bean, our good friend Johnny Bean, says, George, what was your favorite Kramer model guitar paint job?
Elliot Easton. That was my favorite. That was my favorite guitar.
That's awesome.
Right, first of all, listen, I'm not a guitar player. I'm a bass player.
Yeah.
So let's clear that. A lot of guys don't realize that. I'm a bass player. I was one of the few resident bass players there, because everybody played guitar. When I was a bass player, I played guitar too, but I'm nothing to write home about. Yeah. But as far as guitars that I'd like the Elliot Easton model. I don't know why, I just did.
Yeah. George, so speaking of bass, Derwin Moss has a question. George,
Hey, Derwin. I know Derwin.
oh, do you? Can you talk about when Spectre basses were being built in Kramer's Neptune factory? That particular era of Spectre basses are now quite valuable and highly regarded.
Yeah, I'll talk about that all day long. Derwin, how you doing, man?
I'm just going to use the restroom. Can you chat? I'll be back in 2 minutes.
I'll talk it up. Stuart and I are close, man. Stu Spectre is one of the greatest guys I ever met in my life. And I'll tell you, when he came into that place, to me, I have to say that if Spectre didn't move into Kramer in the mid-'80s, I would have left. You know, I think that Spectre being involved with Kramer kept me working there because I had a lot of pride working on those things. I mean, you're talking about the best basses in the world. They are the best basses you can buy. And that's another thing that pisses me off with these jerk-offs like, these guys that say on Kramer on websites saying, oh, no guitars were ever made at Kramer. They were never built there. It's like, give me a break. Bitch, please. We had the Spectres completely made there from blocks of wood all the way up to the finished product going out the door. In the early days, when we used to make those aluminum necks, there's more involved in making those old aluminum necks than there is in making an entire guitar. So don't ever say to me that Kramers were never built in Neptune. And anybody who owns a guitar company or works in a guitar company will tell you the most labor-intensive part of building guitars is the actual finishing of it. That's where most of the money goes. That's where most of the labor goes. That's where most of the bullshit is. And we were always painting guitars. I mean, back in the day before Klein came around, and when I was doing all the graphics, me and Eddie Brolin were doing all the graphics, and John and those guys were helping us tape. We were doing everything. Everything was done there. And then we got to the point where, at that point, when Eddie came around, and very simply the greatest guitar you could buy today, everything boomed overnight, and sales quadrupled. And we just could not keep up with the demand. So we had no choice but to reach out to ESP to help us, because everything happened so fast, and so we just couldn't respond fast enough. There was no way we could have tooled up quick enough to keep up with that. So yeah, a lot of the guitars and basses came in, but Spectre was never like that. I mean, yeah, we did imports, but primarily the Kramer Spectres that went through there they were, as far as I'm concerned, they were the greatest. I mean, they're not the most sought after Spectres. Obviously, the Brooklyn era Spectres are, but in my opinion, and a lot of people's opinion, they're the best instruments that Spectre ever made. And if you knew the guys who worked at Spectre, which I do, because I was part of that team, they were good. I mean, Alan Charnay, all those guys. He was from Brooklyn, but I mean, we had the greatest team, and it's just those Spectres are outstanding instruments. I mean, we have a few of them. I have a few of them to this day. My brothers have a few, and they're like, we'll never sell them. It's something like that. Just has sentimental value to you. That just goes beyond having a great instrument. It just means so much to you, Derwin. And I know you're a big Spectre fan, and I actually enjoyed working with those guys. It wasn't like working for Kramer. They were part of Kramer, but it was a separate entity, Yeah. So that's really about all I could say.
George, do you remember Bill Isaacson? Robbie says. Bill Isaacson.
I'm bad with names. Had I seen the guy, I could probably say, yeah, I remember him. But off the top of my head, the name doesn't sound familiar to me.
Yeah. Okay, another question. Brody says, George, what pickups were you guys using in Ed's Kramers? Anything he specified, or just whatever was laying around? I mean, we all know Seymour Duncan, but anything
no, not whatever was laying around. See, something like that, you'd have to ask probably John Hingy, or somebody who knew more about it than I did. Now, I knew whatever pickups we gave that he rewound.
Yeah.
That I do know. So if he was using a Duncan, it wasn't a straight Duncan. It was something that he took out and was rewrapping it and doing whatever he did to it. So he adulterated everything on that guitar.
Sure. Yep.
When I sit there and I'll rant or rave about, oh, Eddie didn't do shit at Kramer. I don't mean that. I mean Eddie didn't come in there painting guitars. He didn't.
Right.
He did a couple photo ops where he came in and showed him in the spray booth, kneeling down, painting the guitars. Those were all horseshit. I was standing right there when all those pictures were taken.
Yep.
With my arms folded, waiting for him to get the heck out of my way.
Yep.
And the same thing with Jeff Metz. And when Eddie was in the tool room and they showed pictures of him on the the milling machine, milling a body. The milling machine wasn't even plugged in. You're like, you better unplug that or Ed's going to cut his arm off, you know? Yeah. So those are all photo op pictures taken to make him look like he was building his guitars there. Because that was part of the whole spiel. You know, Eddie makes his guitars at the factory. That's all it was.
Right.
It was bullshit.
So, George, this picture right here, I don't know if can you see this picture, Eddie?
Yeah.
So this is 1986 5150 tour. This is one of the, it's not the 5150, it's a 5150 backup. You had to have painted this. This is your
probably, yeah. Unless it was one of the 2-week periods I was fired. God only knows that happened about a dozen times. I probably did.
How about the Kramer logos? I mean, so did you put the logos on too on the headstocks?
Oh God, yeah. In the early days, in the Green Grove days, I did all the logos, the logos on all the decks. And it's funny because my friend Chris Stone, who's one of my best friends, who lives locally, he used to actually make those logos for Kramer back then, which is it's a small world.
Yeah.
But, I put the original Kramer headstock, the original banana headstock logos that just said Kramer on them. Yeah. Those were stickers. They were not decals.
Really?
Those were actually plastic stickers. That's a dead giveaway if you can tell anyone, if anyone comes up to you and said, "Oh yeah, this was Eddie's guitar." No, if it has a Kramer logo on the headstock, the banana headstock, and it's not a plastic Kramer sticker, then it's not legit.
That's
what they were. Yeah, they were not water decals. They were not iron. They were not transfers. They were plastic stickers that peeled off like a roll of tape. That were plastic that said Kramer on them. Actually, most of them have they probably have my fingerprint underneath the sticker from putting it on the headstock.
Yeah,
but they were all stickers. That's a dead giveaway.
That's incredible. That's incredible.
Yeah, it's a funny story. Speaking of stories, you had Dweezil in last week.
Yeah, so he's on my okay, so let me ask this question. I'll set it up. Yeah. So back 2.5 months ago, Dweezil Zappa stopped by Dojo 5150. I'm in my office now. The guitar room's around the corner, but I know, George, you've seen all the pictures. I got 50 inhaling guitars.
I'll be up there.
One day. George, so let me say this. The original plan for this show, Mosquito, was George was going to come visit Dojo 5150, and we're going to do the show here. That is still going to happen, by the way.
Yeah.
But, it's been a crazy summer, a lot of stuff going on. But so Dweezil shows up here. He's playing a show 25 minutes away from my house. And, I reached out to him. Hey, I can't wait to come see your show. He writes back to me. He's like, "Hey, Rob," he goes, "I've seen all your pictures. I'd love to come see the guitar room. It's like trip down memory lane, all this stuff." And he goes, "I'm going to leave you and your wife, Jessie, 2 tickets to the show. Come backstage and want to see sound check and all that." So I ended up picking him up, brought him up here, and he, I know I sent you the video and you've seen it. He played a whole bunch of guitars. He had a ball. It was a great afternoon, and then we went and saw the show. And so we did a little bit of discussion on the guitars, and we did talk about you and painting these guitars. So I guess I'll just.
Did he ever tell you my Dweezil story?
He did not. So please.
Okay. Well, I'm going to tell you.
A bunch of people want to hear it.
It was '88, and it was NAM, And I don't know how you guys remember NAM, but I'm going to tell you, NAM in the 80s, especially the early 80s. Nowadays, you can get in there. If you got $20 in your pocket, you can get into NAM. Back in the day, you could not get into a NAM show if you did not have a ticket. And you were not affiliated. And when I say ticket, I mean, if you were not affiliated with a music company, you weren't getting into NAM. Yeah. It was hard to get into that. It's basically, I guess, like going to one of those XXX conventions in Las Vegas. I don't know. I'm just guessing because I've, of course, never been to anything like that. But I'm just assuming. You could not get into a show back then. And it turned out that Dweezil, who was one of our endorsers, for some reason lost his badge. He didn't have a badge. Couldn't get in. So
this is good stuff.
Mike Plunkett, who just wrote the book about Kramer, which is great. He comes running up to me because I was at all the shows, which is another story.
Yeah.
He comes running up to me. He goes, "Dude," he goes, "give me your badge. Dweezil can't get in." I said, "What do you mean he can't get in? Where's his badge?" "Oh, Andy screwed up, didn't leave him a badge," whatever the story was. So I had to give him my badge. So he was walking around the show with me.
Oh, that's great.
He was wearing my badge. If I can remember his name. He was coming, I would have told you.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, and I was walking around the show without a badge. I'm lucky I didn't get to. It was bad back then.
I tell you, Dweezil was he's such a good,
super nice guy. Did a lot of guitars for him. I did guitars for his dad, Frank.
Yeah,
and he's a super nice guy, man. I mean, and a great player. Holy crap, is he great?
Oh, I mean, he just ripped it up on my stuff. It was incredible.
Frank would really be proud of him, man. The man he is today. I'll tell you what. Yeah.
I'll show a picture of him right here real quick. Yeah, this is Dweezil and me hanging out here, at Dojo 5150 here, I don't know, 2.5 months ago. It was back in April. And he was just the coolest dude. Dweezil messages me now every couple of weeks. He'll send me a message and, "Hey, what do you think of this guitar? What do you think?" He's just a great guy. He's just down to earth, like you, George. Guys that have been there, done that. Just down to earth, fun people to hang out with. And that's what I like.
Yeah, he's all right, man. He's all right. Hey, you want to hear a funny story?
Yeah.
We'll wrap it up in a little while. And I'll gladly do the show any other time. But I got to tell people this story. It's an interesting one. I mean, I have countless amount of stories from that place. But the No Bozo story, I'm going to tell that one.
Yes, I want to hear this. That
was an interesting one because since we're talking about Connelly first starting out and all that. Now, Billy was literally there for maybe 2 weeks when the Berettas were coming online. And we had 3 black ones and we had 3 cream ones. Those are what I consider the Holy Grail.
Yeah.
Everybody else considers anything from 1984 a Holy Grail. But for me, the Holy Grail Beretta were the 6 prototypes that came out in December of 1983. 3 cream and 3 black. Well, one of those creams ended up being the No Bozo guitar.
Yeah.
And how that happened was Eddie was coming in, and it was funny because he was there the day before, and he was great.
Yeah.
Him and I were bullshitting, and just a nice guy. I mean, he came in there, and it was 7, 8 o'clock in the morning, and he was already wrecked, hammered, walking around with a Heineken. I mean, you don't know if he was sleeping the night before. He just came right in from the night before. You don't know. But either way, one thing about Eddie was, you characterize people as happy drunks, miserable drunks or, party people. He was always in a good mood,
Yeah.
Always smiling, always friendly to you, Of course, when it came to guitars, he'd rip your soul out in a split second.
Yeah.
But as far as being an actual down-to-earth guy, which he was, super, super cool, super nice. Steve Z will tell you all kinds of great stories about him. But anyway, so we had the body, but the body wasn't even routed yet. Eddie was coming in the following morning to do a photo shoot, the No Bozo shoot.
Yeah.
So we had the bodies. We didn't have, this is before we didn't even have them routed out yet. We just had the bodies.
Yeah.
So the pickups routes were routed, but the control cavities weren't routed. Nothing was routed because we were doing them. Jeff Metz was doing them.
Yeah.
And he didn't get to it yet. So we had to have one done for the photo shoot. So I painted the body. The body didn't have any back routes on it. All it had was the control cavity. All it had was the pickup route done and the Floyd route done. So I painted the body that day. I had to paint the headstock that night, but something happened. I can't remember what it was. Anyway, I did the body, and it was too late to do the headstock, so I had to come in first thing in the morning, like 6:37 in the morning, to do the headstock, so we could get this thing strung up for Eddie to pose with. So Billy was a nervous wreck, and we had to dummy this. And Andy came in the room the night before. He said, "Are we going to be able to pull this off? Because we better be able to pull this off." And Billy's like, "I don't know. I mean, none of the holes are drilled in it. What are we going to do?" And Billy ended up sticking the volume knob on with dum dum, like bubble gum, on the front of the guitar. And I came in that morning. Eddie was already there at the shop, and I painted the headstock. And I'm holding a magazine, blowing it over the thing, trying to get the paint to dry. The paint's still moving on the headstock, and I slapped a sticker on it. And basically, when Eddie was standing there with that guitar, the paint was wet on the headstock, still wet. I mean, you could press it with your finger, and you left a fingerprint in it.
Leave a fingerprint, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's what it was. And because Andy said, "I don't care if the goddamn thing plays. I just want it to look like a regular guitar in the picture. I don't care about nothing else." So when you see that picture, when you see a picture, that No Bozo's picture, that's not a playing guitar. That is one of the three. It's one of the three cream Holy Grail Berettas right there that he's holding. In that picture.
That's incredible, George. I love these stories. They're great. Hey, I know you probably want to wrap it up soon. We're getting close to 2 hours, but George, I got two more questions.
Yeah, go ahead.
We can see what we got going on. So, I have a friend of mine, Rob DeBio, wants to know, what can you tell us briefly about the Richie Sambora peace sign guitar? Were you involved with that?
Oh yeah, I was involved with all Richie's guitars. Peace sign guitar, actually, who did the graphic on it? Klein did the graphic on that. Yep. But I did the base coat color on it. And what happened was, my friend John Mancuda has that guitar.
Oh yeah, I know John real well. Yeah,
John, great guy. He's got a hell of a collection. He has a collection of all these 70s rock star guitars. Incredible collection.
I have one of his Kramer Pacer purple ones with a Rockinger bridge on it, with the crown heads, with a lawsuit the Strat headstock Kramer logo. I mean, that's Eddie had that one back in '82 before Fender sued Kramer. Yeah, I got that from John.
Everybody sued Kramer. Yeah, I remember that guitar. It was pink metallic, and I painted the base coat on it, gave it to Klein. He was a pain in the ass. Oh God, I can tell. I'll tell you stories about Dennis maybe next time we do this.
Sure.
But, yeah, we'll do it. We'll definitely do this again. I have so many more things to say and so many other stories, but I do remember that guitar, and John has it now. And the thing is, see, back in those days, none of the paint I used had UV inhibitor in it. The polyester clear that I used. So what happened was, and I got a bunch of stories about this, the stage lights from these guys. I mean, Sambora, all these big rock stars, Joe Perry, all these guys I did these guitars for, they would use them on stage, and those stage lights, the UV from those stage lights would completely wipe out the color. So that color that I originally painted had completely faded. I mean, it doesn't look anything like that today. Now, nowadays, if I was going to do something like that, I would use a UV inhibitor in it. But back then, I mean, shit, I didn't even have siphon gun. I mean, I was using siphon guns for everything. I had no gravity guns back then. It was a stone age when I was working back then. You know, I watch videos now. I watch videos now of guys painting guitars for Paul Reed Smith. And I did paint the first Paul Reed Smith guitars, you know. Did you know that?
I did not know that, but
yeah, people don't realize this. But in 1984, Eddie was actually at the factory. I'll tell you this story real quick.
This is fresh. This is fresh.
Yeah, this is fresh. Yeah. Well, Paul Reed Smith was from Maryland, obviously, and he was at Kramer in '84, and he was working at our factory on his prototypes. So he, you know, Dennis knew him or whatever. However he got in there, he was building his prototypes at Kramer, and he ran it through the line. So I painted him. So I essentially was the first painter for Paul Reed Smith. But while he was there, Eddie was there, and it was right before the 1984 tour. And Eddie was in his glory because Eddie walked around Kramer with a clipboard, asking everybody. I mean, just walking around the factory, asking everybody how many tickets they needed to the show. I thought that was cool as hell. He'd walk up to the line and go, you know, how many tickets you need? 2, 3, 4. And he'd tell him, and he'd just write it on his clipboard and walk down to the next guy. It was great. And of course, when we got the tickets, they were complimentary backstage, you know.
Yeah.
Well, we were backstage. That's a night, crazy night. I don't even know if I could talk about the stuff that happened that night. But
can you give me one little bit of a snippet of that night, just the
1984 tour?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Man, I went with Eddie Rowland. Him and I. Well, he was my best friend then.
Yeah.
And we get there. We got the tickets, complimentary stickers, you know, and we were just we were everywhere, backstage, running around. It was a great show. I mean, I'd seen Van Halen, I don't know, 5 times before that. I mean, I saw Van Halen on their first tour.
Ozzy when they opened up. Yeah,
when they opened up, when they were opener. I saw them on their very first tour in '79. So headlining tour. I still have the tour shirt. Doesn't fit me anymore. But I still have it. They played Asbury Convention Hall. I saw them in the Diver Down tour. I saw, you know, I was basically, I think me, maybe Steve Chigner, and my friend Hans Wagner, we were the ones who the first ones in our high school to even hear about Van Halen. I mean, when I bought the Van Halen album, I was a sophomore in high school when it came out, I think. And it was in the V section. Van Halen didn't even have their own section in the records.
Yeah.
You know? And nobody heard about them. And we were the ones that spread the word. But to be honest with you, I really wasn't. I'll tell you, I really wasn't the biggest Van Halen fan. As compared to, I compare that to you guys. You know, I love Van Halen. I'll tell you right now, my favorite album is Fair Warning, by far. I love that record. I think it's great. Came out when I was a senior in high school. It's all we played. And you know, my favorite song by Van Halen, you might not. I like On Fire, and also 5150. They're my 2 favorite. House of Pain. Those are my 3 favorite Van Halen songs. I'm not gung ho crazy about Van Halen like all you guys are. I don't want to disrespect anybody, but I was a UFO Michael Schenker guy. You know what I mean? That was my thing. You know, but so I do respect everything Van Halen did, and I also I'm not getting involved. In no way am I getting involved in the Hagar David Lee Roth thing.
Yeah.
I will say I love Sammy Hagar.
George, I got one. Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
The last question I got for you is, hang on one second. I'm going to do this the right way. Hold on.
Take your time.
Hang on one second. Because I don't have any other way to do it. So a good friend of mine who has owned a handful of actual Van Halen guitars, along with my other good friend Scott Smith, who you probably know, asked me, his name is Cody Barra, asked me to ask you if you remember what is called, this is a replica, of course, it's pretty close, the blue headstock Frankie.
Don't know anything about it.
Marty did not approve of. Paul apparently painted this guitar because Paul said he did, and he put a blue headstock on it. And the real one looks just like this, and the real one's out there. Cody owned it, and he just wanted to know if you remember this, and Eddie signed it.
I must have been fired that week because I don't remember anything about that. I'm dead serious.
Cody.
I'm very skeptical about that whole story. If it ever happened, I don't think it did. And I'll be the first one to tell Paul I don't think it did. But I don't remember it, and I can't say anything about it. So I'm sorry. Can't offer you any information on that.
Great info. Great info. So so just finally, I'm going to say, do you remember when you left Kramer? Was that right around the time when Eddie was heading to Music Man? Was that?
Oh no, that was way after. I was at Kramer to the end. I was at Kramer. Well, not to the end, to 1990. By the time they started getting rid of everybody, they started lightening ship. So, but the handwriting was on the wall for me. So time
when Ed left Kramer, did everything just slow way down? Like, was it like, whoa, this is like a huge hit to the company?
No, not really. Because we had other things keeping us going. I mean, we had some great guitars. I mean, we had, at that point, the Hollow Flash had just come out, and that was huge. Yeah. And the Sustainer, and all those guitars were coming out, and we were still moving. It wasn't the guitars per se that caused Kramer to go down the tubes. To me, it was a West Ray and some of the other problems we had. I really can't get into that because it's not my forte. I mean, sure. I know, in my opinion, why Kramer went down the crapper, but I'm not going to speculate about it, All I know is, the guys that I love that work there, they know who they are. Henry Vaccaro, the chairman of the board, he's like a father to me. All the guys I remember from there, Derek Taylor, who's in Overkill now. He was one of my buddies, and Paul DeCesar, and Nancy and Dina and Donna. All those people that we all work together. Lumpy. I'd love to tell I love telling Kramer stories. Yeah. Van Halen stories, I have a few, but I have 20 times the amount of Kramer stories. And someday we'll get together and we'll talk about them when I come up to visit you.
I can't wait, George. I can't wait. Well, we've been about 2 hours, and I just want to say, George, thank you so much for you and I have been wanting to do this for a while. And
you're welcome. I'm sorry it's taking so long.
No, don't be sorry at all. We all got lives, but I just appreciate you taking the time to do this, my friend. Yeah. We got to do it again. We got to do it again. I want to thank everybody for watching, and I want to say, God bless Ozzy Osbourne and Sharon and the family, and rest
in peace, Ozzy.
Yes, sir. Rest in peace, Ozzy. But anyways, George, thank you so much. I'm going to end this in a second. Don't hang up. You and I will finish up in a second. The outro video is going to go, but then we can finish up, you and I. But thank you, everybody, for watching. This was a great show. I really appreciate all you guys watching. This is one that this is going to be a huge show. Mr. George Felise is someone that a lot of viewers have wanted to see on this show and a lot of other shows. And George, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right. Don't hang up, George. Hang tight. I will. Thank you, everybody, for watching. I love you all, you guys, and have a good night.